Hey, welcome back to the seventh episode of the Decomposition Pattern Podcast, where we break down the hardest stakes in tech and programming into their fundamental components. We separate signal from noise, tackle complex topics with clarity, and rebuild our understanding from the ground up. This is Jose, and today we're gonna answer a question from a friend of mine, Danielle, which questioned me, hey, what's a senior or what's a staff plus engineer? And I thought that this will be a very interesting topic to discuss in this podcast because it really is a question that I had in the past, in a recent past, and I had to kind of find a way of define and understand what it was like because I was about to go into one of these positions that are defined by or that can be encompassed as a staff plus engineer. So there are 3 points that I want to pass down to you. They are what's a common definition of a staff plus engineer? The second one is the staff plus engineer archetypes. And the third and the last one, what it's like to operate at a staff plus level. So as I said before, I went through this path of what it's like to be a staff plus engineer, right? So I moved on from the senior position into a staff level position, and I needed to understand exactly what is this. So I tried to find some other staff people and try to ask them what was like it to be. Obviously, the answers were very different. One, because it always depends on the context. We already talked about it in previous episodes. But I was able to find a very good book called The Staff Engineer. This was actually a book recommended by the now director of IFRSpeak, Fabio Martins. Thank you so much for this. He recommended me this book by Will Lawson called Staff Engineer. And this book really brings a lot of light of what it's like to be or what is a staff plus engineer. So the common definition that I steered up from this book is that a staff plus engineer is an overarching title, right? So it encompasses a lot of very specific engineering titles, being like the staff engineer, the principal engineer, and the distinguished engineer, and maybe some levels beyond the distinguished engineer. So and then the book also come to distinguish very specific archetypes that can be associated with a staff plus engineer. So either you're a staff, a principal, or a distinguished, you'll always be aligned with one or more of these archetypes because that will represent the majority of the work that you will do in a specific company. So the book continues to say that there are 4 archetypes. We have the tech lead. That's the person that guides the approach and execution of a particular team. This should be a very easy to understand archetype. This actually, it's kind of a title by itself, right? So we've all interacted with a tech lead sometime, right? So it's a tech lead because it guides the approach, right? So it is responsible for a team. Maybe that team is a fixed team. Maybe it's a dynamic team, meaning that the team will be composed by different people depending on the project that needs to be tackled. But then there's this person or this group of people that are more, I would say, more suited for, but they have more experience and are the designated tech leads for the execution of the project. Then we also have the architect, which is the person that is responsible for the direction, the quality, and the approach within a critical area or service. So this person is the one, it's kind of the mastermind, if you allow me, behind how a service was developed, how it will be served. So it's very kind of, I wouldn't say very, very specific on how that service was really developed. Sometimes it can be like that. But it's like an architect, an house architect, right? So it kind of draws the house or the service in this case. And then we have the engineers that go and build according to spec. And that's really interesting. And at the same time, my personal opinion, a little bit grateful because you have these things passed down. It's not that clear, right? So the architect shouldn't be isolated from the teams that do the work, but should work in conjunction, and it actually should oversee and sometimes maybe put the hands in the dirt, let's say, right, and help people develop and continuously checking on if things are being properly implemented. Then we have the solver. Okay, so the solver is the one that puts the parachute and goes straight into deep problems. So they dig through arbitrarily complex problems and finds a path forward. So you have this service that's been malfunctioning, is poor documented, and you have no idea how to navigate through it. Maybe there's that person, that senior person, that knows exactly how to go in and just comes from the other side and comes victorious. Sometimes they don't even know how things are done. They just have this very nice and very accurate and developed sense of like reading code and following execution paths, and maybe they're even good in using a debugger, right? Sometimes there's not much magic behind. These are not people that are genius with an IQ of 300 points or something like that, but they do kind of like being thrown into these complex problems, and that's just how they like to do things, and those are the challenges that they like to tackle, and these are basically archetyped as the solver. So you have this problem, you give to them, mission is given, mission is then accomplished. And then you have this other last archetype, which is called the right hand. These are the ones that I find the most, if I allow me being honest, are the most complex, because when you interacting with somebody that falls in the right hand archetype, sometimes you need to understand that you're not talking directly to that person, you're talking to the person that this person, this right hand, is extending, right? So the right hand extends an executive's attention, so they borrow their scope, their authority to operate a particular complex organization. So it's like you have this hierarchy person, this senior in terms of hierarchy, like above you person that needs to like kind of do things and fix things or operate at a higher level, but in order to kind of scale their attention, scale their effectiveness, they kind of get these kind of assistants or this second person, that this right hand that they'll delegate the execution or the overseeing of specific situation, right? So it's a really difficult archetype to kind of define even further, because even though the definition says that they're extending, and then you might not really talking with you're not really talking with that person, you're talking with the person that it's extending from, they usually also don't have their life very easy on that demand. There's a lot of, it's a minefield work at this level. But this is the point of the right hand, so it's to extend somebody else's attention and scope and just do things, focus on the specific problems, but they have this authority, so they have these, they borrow this authority and these credentials and some that from the person they're representing. So it kind of can open a lot of doors and can give a lot of sponsorship, like implicit sponsorship, and a lot of things that they do. There's also a reverse side of the coin, right? So they need to get aligned, and then they need to be continuously aligned with that, but we'll get into it a little bit further. But these are the 4 archetypes. So to go through them again, you have the tech lead, the architect, the solver, and the right hand. They both, like I said, it's not like if you're going to be executing at that staff plus engineer level, you'll be falling into one of these archetypes. Sometimes you might be a tech lead, sometimes you might be the right hand, sometimes you might be just the architect, and sometimes you need to be the solver. You'll learn, and I've learned from experience, that sometimes you're the 4 at the same time. So you are putting a lot of hats, and now we can go knowing all these archetypes and kind of a lot of a broader definition of what a staff engineer or staff plus engineer does or operates at. Now let's go into a little bit more concrete things. So the first thing that you need to understand by operating at a Staff Plus level looks like, you need to understand that the first thing you'll quickly learn is that you don't have everything defined for you. What does that mean? You don't come Monday morning with a set of tasks or projects that need to be done. That's usually the thing that you need to do. Okay, so what does this mean concretely? So you need to understand and define what work matters, right? What you will need to focus your time. You gotta be effective, you gotta be productive, but you cannot be in everything at once. You won't have a lot of well-defined tasks and people pointing to things that you can do. It's like you need to figure it out. I wouldn't say by yourself, but you'll need to figure it out. Sometimes you have other Staff Plus level engineers that can help you, and maybe you can just hook into their work and go around as a team, right? But usually that's not what happens. So what happened to me is that I just went through a staff level engineer and I needed to figure it out. I need to work with the principal engineer. I need to define the work that matters for me. I didn't have a lot of or previously defined and regurgitated, if you allow me the expression. So to go on, it will basically be some abstract problem thrown kind of at me, right? Not necessarily, but there were this set of abstract situations that we would need to figure it out and define a strategy, all based on the company's mission. So we also need to there's a lot of writing and thinking and discussing with peers at the same level, and that means also engineering managers and directors and CTOs, CEOs, whatever relevant stakeholder. So we could all steer from the company's mission and understand, okay, so we have these things that we need to achieve. Now, what are the initiatives that we need to do? How will they be backed up in the technical side? How can we tackle this? What are your ideas and all of that? And you'll bet your ass that you'll be one of the first person that will need to define the strategy. Maybe you're not presenting them or whatever, but you'll be very involved in that. So you need to understand that having like those Linear or Jira or whatever project management tool you use, you won't go in and have this defined project. You'll be the person that will define those projects or work with somebody to define those projects so teams can then execute them. So you can see a lot of these archetypes going right and left, right? So you'll be a solver, or you need to be a tech lead because then you need to guide a team. So you can see now that there's a lot of this movement. So we already know that you need to define the work that matters. You'll need to have an engineering strategy to support the company's mission. Then other type of work that you usually be doing is create technical quality as software grows in size and complexity. So as depending on your company size and your team size, you might be focused on some areas or focus on all areas. Like I said, depends on the side, right? It's just not humanly possible to understand a system that is as complex as, I don't know, Netflix, for example. It's completely stupid to think that you know hundreds of services the kind of by heart, or even not, right? Or even know that they kind of exist. That's a collaborative work. But you will be assigned, or you'll be responsible for at least a set of teams, like to create their technical quality, help them go through challenges, and making sure that they're all aligned, they understand the development guides and all of that, all from a technical perspective. We talked about on the previous episode about this. You remember, you're on a technical leadership path, not on people management, but you also need to lead with people. You need to handle people. So that's also important. So you also need to continuously stay aligned with authority. So you're not on the top of the food chain, maybe you're not even close, but you are you need to understand that the person who's above you, like your manager, needs to continuously be aligned with you. So you both need to understand what needs to be done. You both need to be in constant communication, and also you also need to to feel like you're sponsored, right? And that you have your back covered, basically. Right? You don't want to go around and go against whatever you're aligned with your manager, against the culture of the company, against, or completely missing the point of the company's mission and doing things that makes absolutely no sense. The thing that needs to be clear to you as a staff plus engineer is that it's not about you, it's about the people that you work with. It is completely inverses, right? Up until the senior level, it will be mostly about you, right? So about your performance, about your impact. It will be a very close feedback loop. You know things are great because you keep shipping things, you keep finishing tasks, your projects are delivered on time. Now you're in a staff plus engineer, the feedback loop is really longer than whatever you've been doing so far. So you might not even know until months after you do something. You'll be able to measure if that something was worth it, if it was done well, or if you needed to have done something different. So it's really important to continuously stay aligned with authority and remain an effective leader. And by the way, being a leader is not just by leading or telling people what to do. That's not being a leader. To be a good leader, you also need to know how to follow, right? So you need to go and work with teams. That's the main thing. You will always work with teams, and very rarely you'll be working alone. All the work and result of your work will be in favor of some team or a set of people, right? So it's never about you anymore. It's more about the teams that you unlock, the teams that you help grow, and your impact will also be measured on how teams are performing under you, right? But that does not mean that you'll be saying the teams exactly what they should do, how they should operate. You need to work with them. You need to learn to follow. You need to learn to blend your vision of what's like a good software development techniques, and you need to blend them with the individuals that compose those teams. That does not mean that you're working on a democratic system. Let's just also be very clear about that. That's one of the major pains I suffered in my career, is to make people understand that it's not a democratic discussion. What do I mean by that? I'm not saying that I own all the decisions, but in the end, whatever the team decides and implements will be my responsibility. So I need to make sure that the teams are aligned, that they are performing well, that they understand why we're doing this in this way, why we're going to this route, and I'll be the first one to sponsor them and defend their decisions against the other. I'm not saying this is a conflict relationship, but I'll be the one justifying or having to justify why things are being done that way, and I'll be the first one responsible for any outcome that comes from that, good or bad, right? So that's my job as a leader, to do that. So I need to make sure that my teams are aligned, my teams are aware of why we're doing that. So the why, the answer to that question, needs to be pretty clear for the engineers that will be working with me. And I need to blend my vision, because sometimes what I think it's correct might not be aligned with what the team thinks it's correct. So I need to be able to swallow my pride and to be able to align with them and get to this middle ground of what we should be doing versus what we can do versus what we will be really doing. Okay, so we need to be able to operate in this unknown. Okay. And obviously this means that I need to learn to never be wrong, but that does not mean that I need to always be right. What do I mean with that? I need to learn to not be very conflictuous, right? So I need, like I said, we need to work with people, and sometimes my vision is not aligned with my team's vision, or somebody else is not aligned with the overall vision. So I need to either make them understand why things should be doing, or at least try to figure it out a way of making things work. And that's one of the biggest kind of workloads or biggest objectives that I need to ensure to be done as a staff plus engineer working with teams. Okay. So I need to let go of my ego. I'm not always right. I need to learn how to never be wrong, in a sense that I need to also have confidence in my team and understanding what they might be saying to me, and kind of blend that with what we need to do. And that will also make me create space for others. What does that mean? By not always being or not thinking that I'm always right will actually allow me to be proven wrong, right? So that's kind of the sum of the previous affirmation, to learn to never be wrong, in the sense that instead of me saying, hey, we need to do this way, I will say, well, we'll need to tackle this problem. What do you guys suggest? In guys and girls, or be inclusive, do you suggest we do? And then I might influence them if I have a very good sense of what we should do. But I should try to influence them and say and ask questions about their propositions, so we can align on, make them understand that they're part of the solution, they're helping me. And maybe sometimes, I mean, most of the times we might be proven wrong, or maybe we'll expand our knowledge because we'll learn something, and we come out with a better solution because we included the best of everybody's propositions. This is not something that needs to happen every time, the merging of everybody's opinions, but we need to be able to take the best of all people. And this creates space for others, because then you'll naturally be challenging everybody's knowledge, which, if they are smart, they will understand that they have this opening to showcase their knowledge, and so the people might study, and that will generate growth from them. And then when you see, you'll have a group of emergent leaders that then need to be promoted to such position. But the important is to create space by understanding that it's not about you, it's about the team. You need to follow the team, not only be being the leader, is also need to be a follower. So that will make the team grow stronger than your own contribution, and that's where you have a very good independent or autonomous team capable of you delivering them problems, discussing solutions, and let them just go on and do their thing, right? And lastly, all of these what will comprise into a network of peers that will actually be at will, or be okay with sharing with you, giving you honest feedback about what you're doing. They'll be able to vet difficult decisions from you, so you'll also feel supported by your team. It's also a very, very interesting thing to do. So we can understand that now, that operating at the staff plus level means that you're on this everlasting or never ending sea of mix of politics, people management, alignment, and you then also need to account for your own growth, technical growth, and expertise. So it's kind of a very, very different maybe situation than you probably think, especially if you've never been in this type of position. You might think, hey, I'm going to a staff level position, now I get to boss people around and something like that. Believe me, that's not what will happen. if that's your understanding, you need to redefine, and I recommend that book by Will Larson, call it Staff Engineer. You'll read about it, you'll understand a little bit about what I said here, and you then also get a little of insight if this is really the path that you really make. So let's just come to finalize this episode. Let's just go over what we talked about. So a Staff Plus Engineer is an overarching title encompassing staff, principal, distinguished engineer, and maybe some other titles. There are 4 archetypes. So you have the tech lead, the architect, the solver, and the right hand. And operating at this level means you work on what matters, you need to continuously be effective and productive, you need to write a lot of documentation and engineering strategy to support the company's vision in conjunction with other people and other stakeholders above or below you. You need to continuously create technical quality as software grows in size and complexity, but that does not mean you need to look into every PR or pull request if you're using GitLab. You need to understand and continuously measure if your team is aligned on the development styles and practices of that. Sometimes you'll be looking into PRs and pull requests and something like that. That's not that should not be your focus. Okay? So when you define to work on what matters, reviewing all PRs is not necessarily what you be doing or should be doing. You might be occasionally called on to decide and disambiguate some like work on when they're stalled, when the team is stalled for some. You need to stay aligned with authority to remain an effective leader. If you don't have the sponsorship of the people above you, you won't be able to operate. Nobody will ever take you seriously. So we need to continuously be talking with them and be in open communication, and there'll be a lot of help to define, hey, I'm thinking of doing this because our team is being blocked in this certain way, something like that. But you need to continuously be aligned and understand that you need the sponsorship of the people above you. Continues to be an effective leader, and people will kind of trust you, at least. Then you'll need to learn how to follow and blend your vision with the one of your peers. So it's not always about you. We talked extensively about it. I will not repeat myself, but you'll need to blend your vision of what you think is correct with what your team think is correct. You need to find the middle ground, and sometimes you might just need to let them do the thing that they want to do, because sometimes you just need to let them go. Maybe they'll prove you wrong, or maybe they'll just come back and then will trust you even more, and you'll gain social credits for that, and then you just can't go with your life. So in this process, you also learn to never be wrong. You shift away from being right. That's that nuance of, I don't need to be right all the time. I just need to work with my team to go and have a lot of the best possible result with with all people involved. And obviously you don't need to create conflicts. You don't need to pull ranks. That's just destructive. Nobody then will ever want to work with you. And that will create space for others so that the team grows. And in the end, you'll build a network of peers to give you honest feedback, to help you grow, and also to vet difficult decisions whenever needed. And that's it. We are already way extend in this episode in much bigger way than I anticipated, but it is what it is. I'll ask you again, join our Discord. I'll leave a comment in the episode if you have any specific question about this, and or if you want to join in our Discord, you just go to discord.thecompositionpattern.com, and then you'll access Discord service, and you come and interact with us. But I'll leave you out with this question. Is this what you expected of a Staff Plus engineer, in the sense that was all of this information something that you already know? Have you already operated at this level? Do you agree with, or do you disagree with something discussed here? Let me know. Let's interact and exchange ideas. Until then, I'll see you in the next episode.